Right, so here is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, preamble. As I said before, these are the objectives of this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. There are 30 rights, and the preamble sets out what they're for. It starts like this: whereas recognition of the inherent dignity and of the equal and inalienable rights of all members of the human family is the foundation of freedom, justice and peace in the world. That's how it starts. Now, a couple of things to recognise here is the word dignity is here, and that comes even before the word rights. So what do we mean by dignity? The inherent dignity. So this really means value, doesn't it? It means worth. So we have an inherent worth. And that's very important, because these rights give us that worth. If I could express my opinion, it's worth being expressed, or a religion, or my personality, my manifestation of me has a worth, so there's this inherent dignity is recognised. In a way, this is inalienable, like we said before. It's inherent in us, and it does actually say an inalienable right, so it mentions that. And then it talks about the members of the human family, so that is indicating that it is universal. We're talking about everybody, no longer talking about Russians or Americans. We are talking about the human race, the human family. That word family is very important too, because that word family indicates that we are all so interlinked, and have this really there is no distance between us in terms of who we are deeply. We have these differences. There's a lot of diversity out there, but if we go down deep enough, we're all of the same family. And it's the foundation. So this is the foundation of freedom, justice and peace in the world. These human rights. So yeah, we can understand this freedom. We've talked about that. And justice, yes. So we've got to use this to judge. These rights are to be used to judge behaviour. Behaviour not just of the authority and on the population, how it treats the population, but also between us. I need to be able to allow you to express your opinion, and that's just. So, and then we can have a balance. And peace, it says, and peace, it's the foundation of peace. Now this is so true. In Europe we found the formula of peace and harmony in a community is basically to have a supranational law. So you do need a law. We do need to come to a consensus on how to behave before we behave. So we need to be disciplined according to specifications designed by us, so democratically. But then at the same time, you need human rights, so that the law cannot really enforce conforming people to conform to such a tightly described discipline of behaviours, such a detailed law, that we lose our personality. We can only do this, and we can only can't say this and can't, So really, this is the peace formula that the European Union has, basically to break barriers, and that also means having one law that governs all, made by all, and create this interdependence, creating a supranational law, and then at the same time have human rights to protect the diversity. So we've got unity in diversity, like the slogan of the European Union. We want unity, we want to be a community, and have this interdependence, but, so we don't want unity with dependence and control from the top, but at the same time the human rights will allow us interdependence and not just control. So this is so important for peace. It's part of the European Union formula, shall we say. And then it continues, whereas disregard and contempt for human rights have resulted in barbarous acts which have outraged the conscience of mankind, and the advent of a world in which human beings shall enjoy freedom of speech and belief and freedom from fear and want has been proclaimed as the highest aspiration of the common people. So here it's really talking about the human race. It's not talking about any individual groups, religious groups or national groups. We're really talking about, and we've identified these freedoms of speech, belief and freedom from fear and want, which were the four freedoms they fought for in the Second World War. Whereas it is essential, if man is not to be compelled to have recourse as a last resort to rebellion against tyranny and oppression, that human rights should be protected by the rule of law. So here it's kind of legitimising rebellion. If we don't have these inherent human rights, we've got a kind of reason. So it says if man is not to be compelled to have recourse. So we would be compelled if we were not free. So this is kind of saying this is the way out of that conflict. And so we've got these human rights, and they should be protected by the law. So part of this document is to analyse that the law is to ensure that the law actually effectively protects your rights. So, but that's quite a statement to make, that if there is tyranny, there is a compulsion to rebel, and that's legitimate. That's not illegitimate. There has been one war authorised by the United Nations to protect human rights, and that was against Libya, against Colonel Gaddafi, where he was literally shooting protesters, and the General Assembly had put a resolution that there is a responsibility to protect by the United Nations, and then the Security Council authorised, according to the chapter 7, it authorised that there'd be a war against Gaddafi to protect the civilians. So that normally it's expected that people rise up, but if people haven't got the arms and the means to rise up against a very well prepared and financed police or security force with modern weapons, then the United Nations did, in that situation, go to the people's aid. And then it says, whereas it is essential to promote the development of friendly relations between nations. So, yes, part of this document is to actually promote friendly relations between nations. If a tyranny doesn't respect its population, it's not going to respect anyone else's population. If a tyranny is going to be wanting to dictate a control using force, every minute aspect of its citizens' lives, it's going to want to do the same for foreigners. And so there will more likely become the need to defend ourselves against dictators. Dictators don't finish dictating with their population. They will want, it will be in their nature, their natural response, the way they make relations is to dictate and control, and that will be directed towards foreign nations too, where they are stronger. So whereas the people of the United Nations have the charter, in the charter reaffirmed their faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person and the equal rights of men and women, and have determined to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. Okay. Something worth saying here is that it talks about promote social progress and better standards of life. So, these rights do actually mean progress in many aspects, not just integrating people and having people live together more harmoniously, but also standards of life in terms of progress economically. We can see many poor nations have huge obstacles with wars, with the fact that maybe the women aren't allowed to go to school or work. Maybe religion really controls their lives, and maybe there's civil wars within their nations, and lots and lots of people taking money, corruption, etc., etc. We see these are the stops to progress. Even though we can also see that dictators can actually really push forwards in terms of industrializing, but then when it comes to creativity, they tend to stop, because you can't really have people conform to your tightly disciplined logic and narrative, and at the same time think freely and creatively and be innovative. So to really reach the modern sense of progress, the modern level of production, you need to be able to create a creative population full of diversity, everyone expressing their individuality. Otherwise, you just won't get there. So we can really see these rights, not only do they protect peace, but also prosperity. Those two things really are key to progress. Key. This underpins everything. And then it continues. Whereas a common understanding of these rights and freedoms is of the greatest importance for the full realisation of this pledge. So this is indicating a common understanding that really it's just getting the knowledge out there. These rights aren't a law, they're not binding, but they want to diffuse the knowledge. They want these rights to go in constitutions, to go in regional treaties enforcing rights, to become laws, etc. So, and to be taught in school. If people understand these rights, the more people understand them and see them as universal and inalienable, the greater it will spread. So really these rights need to be taught in school, needs to be diffused in many ways, and put in constitutions, etc. That's the way forward. This document is the beacon. But then really to put this into practice means the human family must act and try to make it become real. This is seen, this document is seen as a universal Bill of Rights, a United Nations Bill of Rights. So, it's of that importance. Been described like that. Now, therefore, the General Assembly proclaims this Universal Declaration of Human Rights as a common standard of achievement for all peoples and all nations, to the end that every individual and every organ of society, keeping this declaration constantly in mind, shall strive by teaching and education to promote respect for these rights and freedoms, and by progressive measures, national and international, to secure their universal and effective recognition and observance, both among the peoples of the member states themselves and among the peoples of territories under their jurisdiction. So they need to be recognised. If we remember, Article 2 of the Italian Constitution says la Repubblica riconosce e garantisce diritti inviolabili dell'uomo. So recognise, they need to be recognised. So it's using the same language here. And talking about the importance of diffusing, spreading these rights, now that they've been decided on by the member states, agreed on by the member states.